Welcome to The Lift. You gotta own it, baby. Hello. Welcome to The Lift. Today we're talking all things money. How is your money mindset? Are you in an abundance mindset? Or are you in a scarcity mindset? Hey, listen, it's something that we all have to think about. We all have to take control of our financial future before it takes control of us. And it's a good thing every year to think about, where are you with your finances, right? And where do you want to go? Well, I'm super excited today because I have two experts joining me to chat all things financial mindset, well-being, and, probably to probe questions that sometimes you might not want to think about, but it's really necessary for our financial well-being to sort of look through things and go, how am I measuring up, right? We think about our fitness, we think about our nutrition, we think about excellence, right, at work, but how is the health of your pocketbook? All right. Well, I hope you have more than dollar bills. I'm going for like more than 20s too. All right. Well, joining me today on the show, I am very pleased to have Rick Stout and Tom Britt, and they're with Benchmark Financial Wealth Management, Benchmark Wealth Management. Guys, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Pat.
Thanks
for having us.
I'm actually bringing you on the show right now.
Fantastic.
Sometimes, there we go. There's Rick and there's Tom. And so happy to have you guys here today. So let's just start out by, let me ask, what is holistic financial planning, or what is financial wellness actually, Tom?
Financial wellness is looking at your entire life and financial situation, making sure that you are able to do all the things that you want to do in life. If you think about your physical fitness, you know that if your pants fit right, if you feel strong, if you have cardio, you're great. With financial, it means that you're going to be able to achieve all of your goals. Will you be able to retire? Will you be able to send your kids to school? Will you be able to enjoy your retirement by going on vacations? And also not forgetting about living and enjoying your current life. Are you balancing out your entire life with the tools that you have? And remember, money is a tool. It's not a destination.
It's a tool, but why does it bring us so much overwhelm?
Mainly because it's not comfortable for us to think about it. We were raised, don't talk about money or politics or religion. And so it's not a comfortable topic for us. And also it takes a little bit of work to make sure that you are going to achieve your goals. Just like if you want to go on vacation, you actually have to plan to go on a great vacation. Well, if you want to enjoy that 30 or 40-year vacation you have when you retire, you have to plan for that as well.
I know. The planning, though, it's the part that gives people a little bit of angst, right? So, Rick, let's talk a little bit about how can people get in this mindset, the right mindset?
Well, right now is a perfect time for people to be thinking about it because everyone is preparing their taxes. And that's a natural time for people to start thinking, okay, maybe I should face this uncertainty in my life, which is pretty natural for people to put off, and take control and say, I'm going to get an understanding of where do I fit in with my financial health. And if you think of it as going to your doctor once a year for your annual physical checkup, we actually use the term your financial checkup. So it's very important for you to have some basic understanding with you, and if there's a significant other, with that significant other, as far as what are some of the broader goals that we want to accomplish. And really with that outline, we can help clients drill down, identify true priorities, understand what it is that makes them comfortable or uncomfortable with regard to their finances in their future as they see themselves. And then we can create a plan around their specific needs and their specific goals. And what we universally find is once once individuals embark on this, it becomes far less scary, and it becomes much more of a collaboration between we, the planner, and them, the client. And it becomes something that, dare I say, people look forward to.
You said it. I think that's a really good point, because as a client, it's like, what should the relationship between a client and a, wealth management person or a financial planner be? Should they be friends? How well do you get to know your clients, and what should people expect?
We will end up knowing our clients better than anyone in their lives, with the exception of their spouse. So what is the relationship? The way that it starts out, it's a business relationship. We're getting to know you, and you're getting to know us. And our relationships are lifelong. Friendships are formed, but there's still that line of, I'm your advisor, I'm your counselor, I'm going to tell you what needs to happen. Like your coach, your fitness coach, I'm going to make you do things that might hurt for a while, but you're always going to walk away in a much better way at the end of the day. So what is the relationship? They become our family, and we become part of theirs.
Really? Okay, that's really interesting, because I would have never, thought that, because I guess it's supposed to be pretty personal, because you know all about their hopes, dreams, and desires, right?
Correct. And the more we know, the more we can help. If you go to your doctor and you don't tell him certain things, he can't or she can't help you to the best of their ability. The same thing applies to us. If there's things that we do not know about, and people come to terms with that pretty quickly. Being in New England, people are a little bit more sheltered, a little bit more reserved. But once the trust is built, it's a floodgate. And we're told hopes, dreams, desires, fears. And we work to take those away, take the fears away.
And, this has been kind of one of those crazy years where, I think about a year ago, right? It was right before we were hearing about this COVID-19 thing, and the markets were gyrating and going up and down and all around. And wow, what a year it's been. But, this can create a lot of anxiety, right? So what tips could you provide to people to just sort of not do anything foolish? I mean, I know you're not providing financial advice right now, but people can kind of get freaked out when these things happen, right?
So one of the things that we always share with clients is that a successful plan should never be predicated on the belief or the hope. Planning doesn't have any section for hope. Should never be predicated on the hope that there's never going to be financial uncertainty again, because there's always financial uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we strive to do is we strive to educate our clients to the fact that we know there's going to be periods of uncertainty, and we know there will be times when we are all feeling a bit uneasy. Quite often, virtually all the time, if a plan is well laid in the beginning, the proper action is no action whatsoever. Now, that's not to say that you don't have an informed discussion with your planner. We also oversee the investments for our clients, and have a discussion as far as what's going on, and maybe what has the impact of the disaster du jour had on their plan. But if we can educate our clients to know that we understand there's going to be uncertainty, and that frankly, we all have to embrace that there's going to be uncertainty. There always has been, there always will be. But by having a plan in place, it helps you navigate through those times.
Absolutely, having that plan. All right, so I have some general questions that I think our audience might need to know the answers to, because we are not, I'm not a financial expert, right? So someone, that's what people go to you guys for, right? So I have a few questions, because I think people need to know, A, what is the difference between investment management and financial planning? Because I believe those are two different things, right?
Yes, investment management is actually a subset of financial planning. You're not going to get to, most people never get to achieve their goals unless they're properly investing their funds. If they're a trust fund baby or a large pension, yeah, of course. But more importantly, financial planning encompasses looking at your entire financial life. It's looking at your current spending, how you handle your debts, how are you going to handle a liability, taking out a mortgage, what's the best way, your insurances, your estate planning is very key to making sure that not only do you get to enjoy your life, but also when you pass on, what happens with your assets? Are you going to dump them at the door of your child? And what happens if that's at a very young age? If you're a 21-year-old and you get an inheritance of $2 or $3 million, we call that the Harley and Tattoo Fund. That money's going to get blown within 18 months. So it's looking at your entire financial picture, not just for you, but for you and the generations that will follow. Investment management, that's the proper asset allocation and management of your money to help you achieve your goals. That's one is a subset of the other.
Okay, so that's important to understand that, you can hire an investment manager. They can just invest your money, but they're not going to look out for the whole picture of what's going to happen throughout your lifetime.
Yes.
Okay. So another term that we hear a lot is the word fiduciary. All right, so I want people to know, what is a fiduciary and why is that important?
In simplest terms, a fiduciary has a legal obligation to ensure that anything that they do or recommend has the best interest of the client front and center, first and foremost. And if there is any sort of conflict of interest, whether it be real or perceived, it has to be disclosed. Now, a conflict of interest doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem, but it should be understood and disclosed. So when we act as a fiduciary, we are held to a higher standard than an investment professional that is not held to the fiduciary standard. And
well, that's surprising. I would think everybody has to be held to that standard.
Well, one would think, and truth be told, when Tom and I were deciding how we structured our firm, we too, 15 years ago, were rather surprised that not everyone was held to that same standard, because you certainly go to your doctor assuming that she is going to have your best interest in mind if she recommends a test or a procedure. And I think that most consumers have that same understanding when they're entrusting large amounts of assets and life decisions and goals in the lap of a financial planner or an investment manager. So it's a critical difference. We, Tom and I, in Benchmark, because Tom and I are both certified financial planners and also Benchmark is a registered investment advisor, we are required to operate under the fiduciary standard of care.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for explaining that, because a lot of us, go into this sort of like confused. We haven't, I don't have a finance degree, right? So I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be looking for, what designations are important in the field. So what should an investor be looking for when they want to hire, financial planner or investment manager to take care of them? Like, what kind of designations are important?
The ones that immediately come to mind is the certified financial planner, because you are required to have the fiduciary standard. And then you also have a base level of understanding of financial planning. Some type of certification looking at the proper way to invest. I carry the certified investment management analyst credential, excuse me, looking at people that are fiduciaries. Rick is an accredited institutional fiduciary. I would look for higher levels of academic achievement Both of us have our MBAs. We both also have master's degrees in financial planning, which means that we are not just checking a box, we are pursuing further knowledge in our field to make sure that we're always up to date and can help our people to the best of not just our ability, but of the broad sense of what people can actually obtain. Those are three of the things that we hold, whether they're credentials or degrees. But start out with a registered investment advisor, look for a certified financial planner, then look for someone that has experience and institutional education in the proper investment of money.
So what do you think, if someone right now is sort of, I don't want to say upside down, but they're not doing too well, right, with their finances? Maybe they had a rough year. Maybe they lost their job. They got laid off. Their small business is not doing well because of the pandemic. What are a few things they can do to start getting in financial shape?
Well, you know, the old adage, you know, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And it's difficult to stop digging if you don't have, you know, an objective assessment of one's situation. Tom and I are fortunate in that all of the things that we communicate and convey here and, you know, throughout our practice, it's built on a finite number of clients, so that we can service them the way that we know that they want to be serviced, that we would want to be serviced. That's why we can have those very intimate relationships with them. And if a client has a set of circumstances where we can't directly help them, we will seek to put them down the right path where they could find some assistance. Perhaps if it's a lower investable amount, perhaps there's an online service that they could use. If it's a situation where they have assets and needs that fit into our niche, we would proactively meet with them. And I think people need to understand that there's nothing to be embarrassed about. These were, you know, historic times. And one good thing of the pandemic has been it's made a lot of people focus on areas in their life where perhaps they weren't previously paying enough attention. And getting an understanding of where your financial situation is it's paramount. You know, next to your health and your family, it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, also our lives change. So many people's lives change over the last year. So every time your life changes, or say you have a life event happening, should you actually run that by your financial planner?
Yes. There are various inflection points in your life. Birth of a child, death of a spouse, death of a parent, you know, a job change, a significant benefits change, retirements. Those are all points where it's just natural to look at what's next. Am I still on track for my path, my goals, my desires, and getting to where I need to be? Okay, because sometimes these life changes are wonderful. You have a child, okay? That child has to go to college, okay, or have some type of education beyond that. You want to retire, but your job change, you have a lower income or a higher income and significant stock options. There is never something that doesn't need to be analyzed and reviewed. Buy a house, sell a house, buy a second house. So any inflection point is a good time to sit back, look at your situation and reassess, are you still traveling down the right path for yourself?
What are the different types of mindsets that you come across when you meet with clients?
So one of the things that we have found, and I think many of us have experienced this in life, is that similar people tend to find similar people. And that's why our business has been built on mainly referrals from our existing clients. And so there's the commonality of mindsets, at least from our practice, is that our clients recognize appreciate, value, and want to bring order to their financial well-being. If somebody doesn't have that set of desire, placing value in having a financial plan and having their financial well-being analyzed and set straight, well, we're probably not a great fit for them. But that mindset does exist, and I guess that mindset probably would have checked out and not have been listening to most of this this presentation, right? This show. However, the other thing that we find is there are a lot of commonalities in people's lives. The timing of things are not always the same. The degrees are not always the same. And one of the things that Tom touched on that I'll kind of revisit is it's quite common for us, once we've established a relationship for our clients, to very much want to include us in those big decisions. Yeah. It's very common for us to have a phone call and it will go something like, we weren't planning on purchasing our retirement home. However, we did find one. What do you think? And within 30 to 45 minutes, we can give them a real concise understanding of what that impact is to their financial plan, so that they will understand the ramifications of their decision. Similarly, a new job opportunity may sound like a great idea. However, when it's really fleshed out, they may realize that that large signing bonus actually doesn't turn out to be as beneficial to their plan, and it allows us to talk with people. In another mindset that our clients tend to have is they're looking not to be emotional. Sometimes they need us to kind of walk in off that emotional ledge.
And emotions do run the show with so many things in our life, right? And so it helps to have that person to check things again. Like, am I setting the right goals? Am I on track? Like you say, getting that checkup once a year, and having data in front of you, like a little map. Do you guys map it out for people, or, should you expect to get a map?
That's the basis of a financial plan. It actually is a map to your destination. And using your analogy, if you were going to drive from Connecticut to San Diego, you wouldn't just jump in your car and start heading west. And then when you hit the Pacific Ocean, take a left. You want to know the best way to get there, see the sights along the way so you can enjoy the trip and also get to your destination at the time, know where the hazards are, and know that you are going to be delayed at points for traffic, for accidents, for things like that, and have that built into your timeline and your plan to make sure that you do get to your destination when you want to, enjoying everything along your path. Back to your question before about the different types of mindsets, very heavy in our field is behavioral finance, is understanding who a human being is, who a person is. Our job, as we describe it, it's 51% financial and 49% psychological. We have to have the mind of a capitalist and the heart of a social worker to be able to understand what you want, understand your personality type. Are you a net saver, a net spender? And it's just an interesting dynamic when someone retires and they've been a net saver their whole life, and you're trying to convince them, hey, now it's okay to spend your money. You worked for it, you've earned it, enjoy it. And they're just like, but this is all I have. You have more than enough to enjoy your life and to pass assets on to your children. So a lot of times we actually end up pushing people into enjoying their money more.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because, it's like,
but there's a lot of work that goes into that before that can be achieved.
Oh, I know. And it's funny, you guys come across like so calm and so like in control, and I'm like super emotional when it comes to money. I freak out a little bit, but I think it's important to be able to understand that you're probably not alone in these moments of panic. When you listen to the news and something happens on the news, like, oh, the market went, took a dive today, knowing that you're okay, you're going to be okay despite the gyrations of what happens. So, what do you think? What concepts would you like investors to know about that are important when it comes to their money?
So one of the things, kind of tying into what you said just now about you turn on TV or you read the newspaper or online, truly people need to understand a basic truth, which is humans are just not designed on their own to be good investors.
Yeah.
The human personality is one that is driven, for very good biological and anthropological reasons, driven by fear and greed. And we have to remove both of those. And we have to explain to our clients that, as we touched on earlier, there will be periods when things seem to be going swimmingly well, and there'll be periods when things seem like it's the end of the world. And quite often, I'll use the expression with clients, as long as it's not the end of the world as we know it, we have very high degree of confidence that the financial plan we put together for you will work, is sustainable. You may not always like what Tom and I have to tell you, but we're going to tell you what we have to tell you. And it's often that we will tell clients during, particularly volatile times, put it down, don't look at it. If there's something we need to discuss with you, we very much will. During the financial crisis, I can remember the first quarter of 2009, Tom and I were in every Sunday, and we were going through our clientele, and we were looking at their financial plans, and we were making sure that all of our clients still were on track. And we use a metric to measure that. It's their probability score. And it was a very fascinating, very stressful application of theory to real life. And we found that when we had sufficient enough cushion built into a financial plan with our assumptions, that we withstood, and our clients withstood, a very real life, real time test of the philosophy of our practice. And that was very, very challenging, but at the same time, very rewarding. And by being able to draw on that and sharing with new clients the communication that we sent out to our clients during that period of time, what we're doing is we're building that confidence and that trust, and that what we do will work. You have to allow it to work, and you have to have confidence in us, not just because you've come to like us, but because what we are doing is built on a sound foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of the world, as we know it, has happened more times than I care to remember. But yeah, 2009, and then even a year ago, at this point, was like, wait a minute, things are looking really.
But it didn't end, Pat. But the
didn't
world
end.
People thought it was the end of the world.
It doesn't end. And I guess that's a really important lesson, because people make dumb mistakes. I'm not saying I know any of them, but where they panic and they make a move, and then they're like, oh gosh, why did I even do that? And that's probably the worst thing you can do. But it is important to realize that the end of the world, as you know it, happens many times throughout your lifetime.
But it doesn't end.
But it doesn't end.
So it really isn't the end of the world as we know it. Our point is, we all have that tendency to think, okay, this is the end of the world as we know it. And it doesn't. Hey, a meteor could hit the planet, right? And I mean, our financial planning is not going to give you any help. But by the way, no financial planning would have given you any help.
Right.
That's not likely to occur. We're living in a life built on probabilities, most likely outcomes, managing the risks that we can manage, managing the basic blocking and tackling of a financial planner. And we can manage those for our clients. And it gives tremendous peace of mind.
That's awesome. So, all right. So I want to know, just because, do you guys crunch numbers all day, or do you to have fun? Like, what? Because you guys are like really serious about what you do. I know that. But Tom, I see some military, naval.
Yes. Submariner for 6 years. Enlisted machinist, mate, diver.
Okay, that's amazing.
It was quite enjoyable. Do we crunch numbers? Yes, of course. More likely, we're analyzing an individual's plans to make sure that they're on target. Our investments are set up. We change investments at a glacial speed. You can't keep jumping around the market trying to find this, that, or the other thing to be the solution to your problem. We're always looking at someone's numbers, making sure they're where they need to be. We're gearing up for meetings with clients. That is the enjoyable part. Meeting with the people, finding out what is changing, whether it's by Zoom or in person, and going over their list of priorities, their goals, their desires, and finding out what the new changes are. No, we want to retire a year early, and we want to buy a boat, or we want to, can we buy that second house? Our life is solving puzzles, figuring out what is the best way for a client to achieve their goals, and sometimes pushing them into other goals, because people can't always define what their goals are. What do you want to do? I want to retire on $2 million. Okay, what are you gonna do with it? And just wait. Be retired. Okay, well, tell me what your retirement looks like. Are you gonna sit at home? Or are you gonna travel? Are you gonna visit your grandchildren? Are you going to, what have you always wanted to do that if you had the time to do, you would do? It's so figuring out how each individual works and what motivates them, and using that to help them to achieve the life that they should be living. But number crunching, yeah, that's in there too.
What about you, Rick? What do you do when you're not examining and doing all that
outside of the office?
Outside of the office.
Yeah. Well, one thing I always share is with clients is, when I put my head down at night, I'm not going to bed just with my wife, but also the 120 families that we're responsible for, right?
It's a big burden. It is a big burden, right?
Yeah. But outside of the office, I'm big into fitness. I do like mountain biking. I'm also a musician. I've got 2 great kids, and there you go. I saw that in the intro. I have a great wife, and even though the past year has been challenging, selfishly it's been quite nice. Had everybody under one roof for a bit longer than we were expecting. Again, selfishly, that's been kind of nice.
Yeah, it has been nice, right? And also, I know that you guys also give back to the community, because I know during the pandemic you had created a fund you're in Old Lyme, Connecticut, so you created a fund to help families in need there. Is that right?
That's correct. We've always sought quietly to put money or assets to where they can be put to use in the community. Great book, That Used to Be Us by Tom Friedman. Broke down the ways that we can become better communities, a better country. And one of them is focusing on the education in your area, and also just becoming involved in the area in which you live. We're community focused. We both live in the town in which we work, and our children go or have gone to the school system here. As soon as COVID hit, but before we fully understood what it was, we had a very good inkling that it was going to be a very significant event and get there very quickly. We are fortunate in our lives, so we made a matching donation, which far exceeded our what we thought was going to happen. Off of our seed money, $100,000 was raised to help families in need in our community. And receiving the emails back, the initial ones we got back was that, if you remember early days, it was finding toilet paper or being afraid to leave the house. And a few of our first emails was like, this money was used to buy food for a man that was afraid to leave his house.
And fuel.
And fuel. Another one was a woman lost her job at the local casino, and we were rent assistants. We work with High Hopes in the area. We work with the Lyme Land Trust. We used to be the standard give a little bit to everybody. Now we're really trying to focus our efforts in areas where we have very strong beliefs, and we believe that we should be helping those who help others. So, and that's,
I love it. Yeah.
sorry.
It's so important. And especially since you've lived in the community, the Old Line community for so many years, I think it's just so important to give back to your own community. That's what keeps a community alive. That's what builds trust. And, the collective well-good of everybody is something that we all should think about. So I thank you for that. And, before we leave, is there any last tip you can offer people as they sort of look at where they're at this year? What's the number one tip you could offer people?
Start your plan. Review your plan. Look at your plan and live your plan. Change it as your life changes and the events change. Make adjustments to your plan. But most importantly, have one. Don't live your life thinking, well, it'll happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. We're no longer in our parents' and grandparents' day where you work at a company for 40 years, retire with a pension and a gold watch, and you're going to die 7 years later. We have much longer life expectancies, and we don't have pensions anymore unless you're fortunate enough to work for one of the few companies that has one, or for the government. But a lot more has to be done than happened at for our parents and grandparents.
Good advice. If you don't have a plan, get a plan. Start the plan. I love it. Rick, any last parting words of advice?
I think Tom summed it up pretty well. But as far as overall life advice, if you will, from the planner's perspective, nothing really is accomplished in life unless there's dedication and commitment to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And to the extent that we can help individuals and organizations, nonprofit organizations, achieve those goals, I think we take great pride at the end of the week when we can come home and say, boy, I really made a difference in somebody's life. And everybody out there has to make a difference in their own life. And their financial life is front and center, to their ability to do that.
Absolutely. And we all know that our financial well-being is paramount to our overall well-being, because most people worry about money. It's like the number one thing that people worry about in their life, so it's important to take charge of. And where can people find you guys online?
So people can visit us at Benchmark Wealth, MGMT, short for management.com.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much, Rick and Tom from Benchmark Wealth Management, for joining me today and helping us sort of decipher some of these financial terms, some of these challenges, and some of these things to think about for the future.
Thanks for asking us on. It was very enjoyable.
Oh, great to see you. Cheers.
Bye.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Wow. Well, I want to also thank you for joining me, because, this stuff that we have in our pocket, it's really important, right? This is the stuff that keeps us up at night, right? What are your goals? How are you going after them? You need to think about the long-term picture, not just the short-term picture, because life goes by so quickly, right? I mean, think about how fast this whole year went by. It's like, boom, in the blink of an eye. And when it comes to, saving, like I personally believe, and I've always been a saver, and I'm a little conservative with, when it comes to spending, and saving is very important to me. Right. And so I've always been the type of person to, save from the time, I was in my 20s when I had that job, and build that, program and that portfolio, because I know that my retirement is going to come up right before I even know it. And I don't want to be kept up at night. Right. So I hope that you have learned something really valuable today. I want to thank you for joining me this week on The Lift, and I'll see you next week, same time.